Ryan Hennessy is well known for his writing, thanks to the songs he's co-written and performed in Picture This. But now he's taking it one step further. He is releasing a book of poetry that he has just published. It's called I hope I get this right, Syncopated Blue. Ryan Hennessy, am I right there?
You're close. Syncopated Blue.
Thank you. I can't say it. Can you say it again?
Syncopated Blue.
Syncopated Blue. Ryan, thank you so much and congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it feels, even just hearing your intro, it kind of, I keep forgetting that it's actually a thing that's actually out in the world now. So yeah, it feels amazing.
How does that feel? Because, you know, usually you've got Jimmy by your side when you're releasing something into the world. This is the first time in a long time that it's just you.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing where I wasn't scared or anything. I was quite excited just to be doing it because I just loved the book so much. But then everybody was kind of saying to me, "Oh, it must be scary, like being by yourself." And then I was like, you know what? I never thought about that, but now that you say it, it kind of is.
Do you know what? If you'd never thought about it, don't start thinking about it now.
Exactly.
So what made you want to do this? Did you have all the poems already written, or is it something that you went, I want to put a book together, let's start thinking of stuff to put in there?
It was a mix of both. So I've been writing poetry since I was like 7. And then seriously since I was about 16. When I say seriously, I just mean poems that actually make sense.
Yeah.
Since I was about 16, yeah. And then people always told me to do a book. Everybody's always like, you should put your poems in a book and put one out. And for some reason, I never liked the idea of it for a long time. I was always a bit like, I don't know, because I was just like, that's a bit, I didn't know how it would come across a pop singer bringing out a poetry book. You know what I mean? I didn't know.
It was other people's judgment.
Yeah, it was other people's judgment, but it was more so that I just wanted it to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Not even that I don't really care about the judgment. It was just like, yeah, I would just, if I did do it, I'd want it to be taken seriously. But then again, at the same time, not that seriously. It's not that kind of poetry book. You know what I mean? It was just a thing where I was always a bit like, I don't know about that. But then during lockdown, I just had so much time on my hands where I was like, you know, if I'm ever going to do it, now is going to be the time, because I'm not, once the world comes back, I'm going to be back full in Picture This mode.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agreed to do the book with my publishers, Gill, and then so I started writing more poetry then over about a year period. So it's poems from when I was 16 up until like only a few months ago. So it's like 10 years of poems, really.
Oh, wow. You said, though, you started writing when you were 7, poetry.
Mm-hmm.
When was the point when you realized that in order for something to be a poem, it doesn't have to rhyme?
I think it was a few years later. I started writing more freeform when I was around 18, when I started to discover new poets and stuff. But yeah, for many years I thought it had to rhyme. And then I went through this period where I thought, you know what, if they rhyme, they're probably not as open, because you're kind of forcing words then. So they have to rhyme.
True.
Then yeah, I found a balance, because in my book it's just a scatter of like, there's 2-liners, then there's 2-pagers, and there's poems that rhyme and don't rhyme, and it's a mix of everything.
And that's what I love, because I have to admit, to this day, Ryan, if I'm trying to write a poem, I'm still thinking of it in rhyming form, and it's just like, no, it doesn't have to rhyme.
It doesn't. No, forget about that.
What do you love about, because like you write music, so it's not like writing is foreign to you. What is it about poetry that gives you something that writing a song doesn't?
I think it gives me more freedom, a little bit more freedom.
Really?
Or a little bit more like, because we're a pop band, which is what we want to be, and it's what I absolutely love with everything in the world. But you kind of you're a little bit confined where you can go lyrically, I guess.
Yeah.
Within reason. I try not to be. I don't think too much about it when I'm writing a song, but there's poems in the book that I could never put in a song, because they're just so conversational, and just also just the content is just a bit like, I love releasing uplifting music that makes everybody feel great, and sing along music. And a lot of the poems in here were written at a time where I was going through the motions and not feeling great, or going through breakups and all of that. So they just, to me, poetry and songs are very separate in my brain, and I can tell within 2 seconds when I'm writing something down if it's going to be a poem or a song. They're very separated and compartmentalized in my brain.
I suppose poetry is really personal.
Mm.
As you said, you're talking about so many different personal things that are happening to you. So, and I suppose when you release a song or an album, there's sometimes what, 13, 14 tracks in an album and you're done. There's about
Yeah.
90 poems in this, Ryan. We are really getting an insight into how you feel. How do you feel seeing all of this in a book and going, wow, the whole world is going to be able to read this?
That was another one of those things where I felt great. I didn't feel scared or anything. I felt, because
Brilliant.
I'm very comfortable with expressing myself, and I always have been. But I've really got comfortable the last kind of year or so when it comes
Yeah.
to this medium of expression. But again, everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, it's so brave that you're bringing out a poetry book and you're putting all this down on paper." And I was like, "Is it? I didn't think it was. I thought it was just me, the same as music, but just no music around it."
Yeah.
But then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's really brave. That must be scary." And I was like, maybe it is, but I wasn't thinking about it until
Do you know
that.
what? Do not let us put the fear into you. There's so much of that going on in the world. You don't need that extra bit right now.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
I love that, most of us pick up poetry because, as I said, in school, we're taught to write poems that rhyme. And then from there, we develop a love of writing or we don't. But with you, your dad and your granddad both wrote poems. Like,
Yeah.
so when they saw you going down this line, what did they think when you were younger?
Yeah, they were always very encouraging of it, because I guess for me, I didn't have anybody to relate to in the poetry world, and my
Yeah.
friends, nobody was really interested in it. But I always loved it, so I could speak to my dad about it. The first poem I ever wrote was when my granddad actually passed away, and I wanted to mark his passing by, as a 7-year-old. I was like, how do I mark his passing meaningfully? And I wrote a poem and put it on his grave. So it was actually the first poem that I ever wrote.
At 7.
7, yeah. So I really have my granddad to thank, because if it wasn't for him, I never would have done that. And then that kind of started my journey. And then I knew that my dad wrote poetry. But growing up, I think when I say that, it sounds like I grew up in an artsy household, which it was the complete opposite. I grew up in a sporting household in a council estate, and you know what I mean. It wasn't like,
Really?
yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that my household was always very open. I was always encouraged to express myself however I want, but it wasn't kind of like artsy up in the air household at all. It was the opposite. Um, and I never experienced my dad writing poetry. He kind of stopped when he reached like my age, and he had a family, and he married my mum and started having kids and all of that. So I was kind of out on my own a little bit, but I always knew that that like my dad had and my granddad had done it. So it was kind of an encouraged thing, but it was, I always found this weird middle ground where I had nobody to relate to or talk to about it. And I discovered John Cooper Clarke when I was around 15 or 16, who's a punk poet from Salford, who I really love. And I was like, he was opening up for the Clash and stuff like that at these punk gigs, and I was like,
Wow.
whoa, poetry can be
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
And that was kind of that reignited my flame again. I was like, oh, nice, like this is great. I have somebody now. I have kind of a vessel of hope there.
How did your family feel? Like, have you shown them that first copy of the published book when you brought that home? What was their reaction? And is it sitting like pride of place in their home?
Yeah, it is. There's loads of copies. I brought home loads of copies, and left them there, because I know they'd be asking for them. Can I get a copy for this person?
They actually will, won't they? And then
Yeah,
they'll actually run out because they'll have given them to all the people on the road, all the neighbors, all the friends,
yeah,
and they're like, oh, we actually don't have one for ourselves.
yeah. They already have run out. I have to get more and bring them back.
You'll have to
But
get people to buy them, Brian. That's how
I
this
know
thing
once I
works.
start. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was amazing reaction, because in the front of the book, I actually inserted one of my dad's poems that he wrote, which was a surprise. He didn't know I was doing that, and I just wanted him to. I felt like it would be remiss of me to not acknowledge my grandfather and my dad, so I put one of his poems, my favorite poem of his, in the front. So he's now a published poet, as well as me. And I handed him the book, and I didn't tell him, and I just kind of watched him flicking through the first few pages, and then his eyes kind of looking at me, and he couldn't believe it, and it was the most like fulfilling thing I've ever done or experienced in my life. It's that's kind of the success to me now, is that, and anything from there is just a bonus, really.
Oh, Ryan, I've just got goosebumps. Like, what a moment for your dad. You made him a published, but something that he's probably been too afraid to even dream of. And you
Mm,
made a dream happen for him.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, it feels amazing. It's very, very fulfilling and very kind of fills up my heart even thinking about it. Yeah.
Oh, so tell me about the title of the book. I'm going to try and say it. I don't know why I can't say the word. Syncopated Blue.
You got it. You
Oh,
got
thanks.
it.
Why this title?
It's, you know, I never thought as well of like, because syncopated means like in music, it's like when a beat goes off time for a second. And I kind of forgot that everybody's not involved in music, so I thought everybody knows what syncopated means.
Yeah.
But it comes from a poem in the book where I refer to a girl's syncopated blue, and it's kind of a mix of a lot of things, I guess. Because when you think of like an offbeat that kind of comes and goes, and then you think of blue and that kind of how that relates to emotion, it's kind of a sadness that can come and go. Really,
Yeah.
is at its very core. And then it was a momentary line in a poem as well. And it's this funny thing where with all of our albums, with Picture This, we always knew as soon as we heard the line. So for our second album, Modern Love, when I wrote the line, "This is Modern Love," me and Jimmy both turned to each other and were like, "That's the album title." And it was the same thing with Life in Color. When I wrote that line, it was like, that's the album title. And it was when I wrote that poem, I just knew. It was just like, that has to be the name of the book. It's just crazy innate sense that you just feel it, you just know. And yeah, that's how Syncopated Blue came about.
Oh, it's so lovely to have this out there. I can't let you go though without asking about Picture This. What is happening?
Well, right now I'm in this studio because we're about to go and rehearse for our UK tour.
How does that feel, Ryan? Like you're going on tour.
Amazing. I'm trying my best not to swear. It feels amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't wait. It's pure purpose for me is being on stage and getting the songs out and feeling the energy of the crowd. And I miss it so much. I miss the I don't know what you call it, the acceptance, the warmth, the gratification that you're doing the right thing, the in person, because it's great. We've great fan base online and all that, but you just cannot beat like first song on the first show. I'm crowd surfing. I feel like I'm going to have to try everything not to get right into the crowd straight away. So I'm buzzing.
Well, I have been asking a lot of artists who haven't performed their first show yet. Are you ready for that? It's going to be different to any other show you've played before or will play again, because it is something that your senses will not have felt for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, luckily we've played some festivals in the UK over the summer. So they were kind of a nice way of us getting back into the flow. But we played Transmit Festival in Glasgow last week, and that was a real moment of like, we were playing at like 4:00 in the day in Glasgow, and like 25,000 people just showed up and sang every word of every song, and it was just like a sensory overload. I came off stage and I didn't know what to do, where to look, who I was, but it was amazing, and I loved that immersion and that feeling of getting lost in a crowd, because it's that communal kind of expression, and all those people singing your song back to you for 20,000 different reasons is it's the best thing in the world.
Oh, well, Ryan, you can enjoy so much more of that. Enjoy all of that. And at the same time, published author, published book of poems. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.